All right, welcome to the regular meeting for January 27th, 2026. We'll start with Pledge Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, starting off, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Other than you and the discussions, do you want to take that off?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will remove, or recommend that we remove discussion items for the board policy revision. There's more work that you want to do and have us bring to you before we bring it to public discussion.
Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second. A motion and a second. All those in favor, right hand. All right, moving on to the board recognition.
Yeah, so I'm going to invite Raina Sisson and Megan to come forward, Megan Zimmerman. Just really, first of all, as they're coming up, just want to say, just really proud of our food service department. I get to go to a lot of the meetings that Raina has with her team, and remembering back just 6 years ago as Raina was building this team, it's just a big difference. It's a really cohesive team, very positive meetings, and they just do a great job. So happy to have you here and to recognize Megan.
All right. Well, I just wanted to recognize Megan because Megan completed a series from the IDOE and the Indiana School Nutrition Associations. It's called the Director Series. So basically a lot of directors, I've gone through it, assistant directors, anybody that wants to learn more about the school nutrition program can sign up to do. It's done over the course of, it takes at least a year, year and a half to do. It's 50 hours plus of work, and it covered a lot of different topics such as revenue, expenses, ethics, HR, HACCP, safety and sanitation, HACCP. So it's just a lot of those different topics that you would use in general through food service. And because of it, Megan has really been really great at pointing out some things that, hey, let's change this, or can we look at this, or I learned this in the class. And so it's been really worthwhile for us to invest in that, and she's got a greater understanding and is able to do her job even better. So, but I'm just really proud that she took the time, like I said, over 50 hours of classes that she took to complete this, so.
Yeah, great.
Thanks for your continued desire to improve yourself to help improve the district.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
All right, so we do want to take time here at mid-year to just update the board on goals that were set. And also, first, we'll start before we get into the principals sharing student achievement goals and where we're at with those. Wanted to have Mindy come up and just give an update on special education programming and where we're at with that, so. Go ahead.
Okay, so there are just three things that I want to discuss tonight: where we are, our program strengths, and then the current needs that we still have within special education here at Norwell. So where we are fully staffed for the 25-26 school year presently. All special education teacher positions have been filled. School psychologist, if you guys approve the second contract tonight, we'll have 2 contracted providers. The coverage will be 5 days in person, 3 days remote. The virtual school psychologist then tomorrow, if you guys approve the contract for the second in person, will start her 30 days to eliminate that position. We have an educational diagnostician, fully staffed, Brandy Baker, that's been working with the school psychologist. We have our physical therapy is still contracted through Adams Memorial Hospital. Occupational therapy, full-time OT with Tiffany Stanley, and we just hired a CODA that supports her 2 days per week, because what occurred was that her caseload is over 60, and I think I spoke about this at another school board meeting, and that they tried to pass a bill that 50 was the max, so she's way over. So we added a CODA to help support her.
Explain what CODA means, like what that stands for.
It's a certified occupational therapy assistant, so.
So not just a teaching assistant, but they're
Yeah.
also certified to
Yes,
provide
yes,
services.
yeah. So she's able to help with those services and those type of things. Speech, language pathology, we have 3 licensed speech pathologists, and then 1 assistant that is currently working towards becoming an SLP. That's what we have that. And then we have Megan Howard, who is our special education secretary, and then myself as a special education director. Another thing that we are doing that I was wanting to bring up is that ABA and behavioral support, that we actually allow ABA companies and other behavior consultants to come into Norwell schools, which is something that a lot of districts don't do. And in fact, there's a House Bill 1102 that's trying to be passed in July that is stating that this has to happen. So I feel like we are pushing ahead of the game, that we won't have to worry about that. That was something that I was really proud of Norwell, that we have started that. Now this is our 3rd year that we've been doing that. Program strengths, strong teams of dedicated educators. I mean, every day they just amaze me of how dedicated they are to work with the students and help meet their needs, improve communication with families, and then also our dedication to improve the use of assistive technology. So when I first came here, I noticed that some of our students at the high school level that have some communication barriers were not utilizing their AAC devices, so LAMP and those type of things. And so I really wanted to work on making sure that we start them off little, using their communication devices, so that way when they are to high school, that they're able to communicate with everyone and throughout the day. And so really working with staff on that. Nicole Smith from PRC has conducted training with all the elementary teachers and the special ed staff, and she's coming back to work with April Roberts at the high school, and then also going into ASEAN and going to work with them some more too. So really trying to strengthen that up. Current needs that we have, because we're always growing, and there's things that we need to improve on. So Norwell Middle School needs a life skill program. So currently they just have an intense intervention program. So they have their life skill students and their intense intervention students all together. And that's the only level that has that. ASEAN and then also the high school have 2 separate classrooms. So that's just something that we need to work towards, of getting that divided up. This year she doesn't have any 8th graders, so that means that no one's going to be moving forward, but she'll be getting new students. So that's something I really want to push for next year. Behavior support for our emotional disabled students and other students with social emotional deficits. Like I had mentioned at a prior school board meeting, that we're currently contracted with Hands in Autism, but that's just something that we need to continue to work on. So Kelly Goody and I met with Lancaster. We're trying to really build up that MTSS part of the supports for the behavior, to try to do some of that tier 1, tier 1, 2, and 3 interventions and try to help those students, because we're just seeing a lot of students that's struggling behaviorally, if that's trauma or different disabilities that they're facing, and so we just really need some support there. And then also, I would really like to have an in-house school psychologist, so we don't have to contract, obviously, anymore. So that's the 3 things I really want to work on that we have some needs in. So do you guys have any questions?
No, the only thing I was going to say is from the staff surveys that we received back, there was several comments in regards to some PD or some awareness to outside staff
Okay.
that are not directly involved in the special education, right down to the bus drivers, and some dealing with
Okay.
special education individuals, and just how to handle situations, especially as we're trying to bring them more into the classroom, and so they're not just secluded into a single, just thinking, you know, how do we get the other teachers outside of the special education specific individuals the same type of awareness and training, so that the other staff know.
So you like to see more like training than with the bus drivers and gen ed staff and all that? Okay,
Yeah, that
perfect,
was
yeah.
kind of some of the responses that we received.
Okay,
so.
we have in the past, we've done some training with bus drivers, but I agree with you, that is something that like we need to continue to work on, especially now since we have a transportation director, like I can work hand in hand with Amy and that would be great, so, okay.
Thank you.
All right, yep. Anybody else having questions?
And just to make sure, just because we use the terms all the time, when she says MTSS, are you familiar with that? Okay, multi-tiered support system. So it used to be called response to intervention. So it would just be, you have tier 1, which is your level, your first level of instruction, and then you have tier 2, which is a little bit more intense, and then tier 3, which is a lot more intense. And so as students respond or don't respond to that, then you know, you might say, hey, maybe we have a learning disability here, we have something else going on that's maybe more severe than just what normal interventions would provide. So, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, elementary.
Hello. Hi. Alrighty, we're going to talk a little bit about where we are, what we're doing currently in the classrooms. We have a lot of good work going on all the time. It's fun to watch. Our teachers meet weekly to talk about students that perhaps have different needs and what we need to do about that, all the way up to maybe we have students that need a challenge. And so weekly collaboration in both buildings is important. In addition to that, we have PD focused on looking at data. Where do we take students next? What is it telling us? Not just what we feel, but what that data really tells us to do and how that guides each decision that we make. We have great instructional coaches that help guide a lot of those conversations. They are in the classrooms working with teachers, doing coaching cycles with them. That's teacher kind of requested, as far as like, hey, I know I'm struggling here, I have students that I'm not reaching, what can you do? What can I do better? And so they walk alongside them and kind of help guide those interventions and those conversations to help even our newest teachers that maybe don't have a lot of experience, help them continue to grow and develop those tools in their toolbox. We have iRead, as we all know, is a big thing statewide. I will tell you what, our second and third grade teachers, I don't know that there's anybody that takes it more seriously and takes it to heart. And from day one, they are really trying to help those students. Again, the test is our measuring stick, but it's not our goal. Our goal is to help kids read, because we know if they're not learning to read, second and third grade, school's tough from then on. And so, yes, there's that exterior measuring stick and that pressure, but in reality, it's that internal pressure of we want every kid to leave as a reader and to be able to do whatever they choose to do. And so those teachers are pulling groups constantly. They're working through that. We have built-in intervention time in each building to really focus on the students that need it most. We have our licensed teachers working with our neediest kids. Our assistants often are taking those students that maybe are at or above grade level and challenging them in different ways, but we want our most experienced people working with the students that need it most during that specific intervention time. So that's that tier 2 that Mike was mentioning, that it's small group guided. Sometimes it's one-on-one if a student has unique needs. But that's that specific time that we build into our day. Doesn't mean that there may not be other times throughout the day that we work with students a little differently, but that's a dedicated time each day. We are trying to be systematic in that process. So identifying students that need additional work in that MTSS process, a little different, and then kind of guiding them through that. And really kind of having good conversations district-wide. So Lancaster and Ossian are step in step with this. They reach out to each other frequently in addition to our 2-hour delay times that are built in. And they're like, hey, we're struggling with this. How is this going? Or we have students that like, we're not seeing the growth we want to see. It looks like your data's a little better. What are you doing? Maybe there's just little things that each building can tweak. Even though we have common curriculum, there's always little things that maybe can make a difference for a few students. So that's been really nice. We work hand in hand.
And I'm just gonna jump in for a second, just because you both have been here a long time.
Hey,
Oh, sorry, but no, but just, no, we've had this conversation,
Yeah.
and you've said this to me, and so I'm gonna, if you don't mind, just on that, the difference in that, right? So if you go back, you know, I don't know, 10 years ago, but even like shorter distance than
Yeah.
that, how much more together
yeah.
the two buildings are now.
Yeah, and there have been waves of that over the years, but I really feel like lockstep, even down to the teachers check-in as far as pacing of the curriculum that we use, that they try to stay pretty close. Now, there are things, you know, oh, we have a program or something that we may not be day by day, but we're pretty close, so that we make decisions for all third grade students together, so that we know where we're going to be at what points in the year. But it also gives them the opportunity to be like, hey, we found this cool idea to do at the culmination of this unit, thought you guys might like it too. So it's both sides of that, which is very nice. If the teachers feel supported, it's not just within the building.
And the instructional coaches have been a huge part of that. If you see Lynette Freiger or Janelle Valenti, like pat them on the back, give them high fives, like,
Yeah,
because those ladies are highly collaborative, and then that just brings the grade levels together. They know, like, okay, if I go to Lynette, Lynette's gonna talk to Janelle, she's gonna talk to her team, they're gonna come back together.
Right.
Their working relationship is just so unified and so in sync. So that has been a huge position to have consistently at the elementary schools, for sure, as that instructional coach. They provide support to teachers when they ask for it. When we see someone that needs support, they push it, they model, I mean, it's just a key position in a lot of this. You're gonna have to make that a little bit
I
bigger.
know, I just saw Not cutting it.
I mean, I have it on my phone just in case, but I even have contacts with that and little. So what we did here is we broke down our data by grade level. So you can see on the chart, I won't read through every single thing, but the first column is ELA, so you'll see a grade level goal there, appropriate and on target for where the kids are at that time and what they're expected to learn. Second column, you'll see the math goal, which is usually tied to either NWEA, and then in grades 3 through 5, it'll be tied to I Learn. And then in that third column, you'll see kind of the current and prediction. So we looked at our winter scores to see, okay, where are we in that category when it comes to looking at our end of year goal that we're looking to attain? Are we on track? Are we on target? Is there something we need to revisit and look at our tier 1 or tier 2? And so you can see all of that there. You can see for kindergarten, the goals focus on phonemic awareness and phonics. And then again, math, all of that is at that proficiency or above. For the ELA goals, they're at that 95%. And you can see we're close to that. We're at that 80, 89, 79 area there. So in kindergarten teams, all of our teams just met middle of year with the late start PD day to look at that tier 2 and kind of relook at their groups and interventions and things. So just kind of seeing where we're on target for that. Grade 1 has been a lot of discussion this year for that sentence fluency goal, which is part of NWEA reading fluency. Obviously, the grade level goal, the state goal for iRead is 95%. So when we initially set these goals 2-3 years ago, the 95%, we kind of trickled that down to the other grade levels. As we look at that goal, there's just some factors that tie in for grade 1. First of all, sentence fluency is a timed assessment. Anytime you add time to things, even as adults, if we're saying we're gonna time you, your brain can do funny things and slow you down and decrease that performance. So that's one variable. And then also taking into consideration, like, okay, we have grade 1 working on this sentence reading. This directly correlates to iRead success. But then they have another year in grade 2, and then they also have another year in grade 3 to kind of close that gap. So kind of looking at a tiered goal when we look at 26, 27. So I kind of included there on the far right, you can kind of see where we're at now, about that 44%. Last year, this same grade level ended at 23%. So even though this goal is highly attainable and can be very defeating to teachers who are working their tails off, they already have seen that focus on sentence fluency already improve scores. But then I also included, we all know that our iRead scores last year were something to be very proud of. And so we looked at this year's third graders as first graders and where they were at. And they were around 39% of the grade level met that sentence fluency goal. So as we look at setting a goal for 26, 27, seems that maybe around that 40 to 50% area would be more appropriate. And then second grade would have that work to do to close the gap even more. And then third grade would finish strong, so.
Is that because they're doing the same at grade 1 to grade 3? Or is it becoming ever increasingly more difficult as they move?
The target changes. So when you give it, beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year, there's different targets, and NWA sets those targets. So
Okay.
the target does change.
So it is set up more for that first grade versus second grade versus third
Correct,
grade.
correct, yeah. It's not like a second grade test that they're getting, yeah,
Okay.
you're correct, it's adaptive.
And we've been honing in on data, really looking at that and really looking at, there's an accuracy piece. And Janelle, again, another shout out to her. She compiled even more data today and it's like, oh, we're honing in, I think, on what would be, I told the teachers first grade when we met last week, like attainable but challenging, right? That's always what we want. And so I think we're getting closer to what is more reasonable. And so,
But you guys have
like I
also,
said,
you guys have also broken it down to like if, instead of 15 words or something like that, if they
Right,
get to
yes.
10 words in the sentence,
Right.
like what's that predictability for
right,
third grade?
yes, like I said, we dug into that even deeper. I haven't even
Yeah.
shared with Ginger yet, but there's
Yeah.
some good things happening there, and I think we're gonna be able to hone in on something that's
Yeah.
really a closer match to that predictability of iRead. That's really what we wanna do.
Because the rate's just one piece of fluency.
Yes,
So
yes.
that can really skew it. So, okay.
So that was the big grade level that we're having a lot of discussions about the goal. Second grade, you can see there, the same thing I just talked about, 95% is our goal in third grade, so if we can get 80% in second grade. Last year, this year's third grade teachers, they have, 19 kids that are, I don't know where you guys are at, 19, you were close at the same, but such a smaller group of kids to focus on in third grade. Last year, when they got third graders, they had like 60 kids that did not pass. So, to have 19 is a lot easier to have that specialized group in there. Third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, you can see that those scores are iLearn scores. So it switches a little bit there, no more NWEA. And so you can see there that we, for the predictability, so iLearn, we're still learning the new reports, the checkpoint reports, and we continue to learn there. But we included there kind of where Norwell was with the predictability of the percentage of kids on track, and then where Indiana's predictability with the kids on track there is. And then teachers do the same thing there in those grade levels. They take those checkpoint reports, they break them down, they look to see what target skills they need. During that intervention time, they're dividing kids up and honing in on those specific skills for them as well. We are excited next year. We focused a lot on language arts with our intervention and acceleration block this year. There's a lot of things coming down the way that we need to add more of a math intervention in. So just like everything, when you focus on one area, the other stuff can fall off the plate. And so already looking at next year's schedule on how to get that tier 2 and 3 math built into that daily schedule next year.
Questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. I have to apologize. Andrew conveniently scheduled a trip, so I'm the backup for tonight. But I'm going to talk through middle school just briefly and just to give some context. Again, focusing obviously on iLearn, kind of where we're at, what we've been doing, some things that our goals kind of have shifted a little bit this year as far as kind of our approach on how we're going to hit some remediation and target groups. But so last year's iLearn, again, I don't know how much of, again, I can't read it super well from back here, but.
Make that bigger?
So again, so last year, we opted in, the state basically gave the option if we wanted to basically be a part of this checkpoint system. So the whole idea was to, throughout the year, they're gonna give some checkpoints, they would throw some standards in a testing module, just to give us an idea of where we're at. Again, if you've been in education for any kind of period of time, it's usually kind of a moving target. Sometimes you don't know where you're going. But again, that's the game and that's what you have to do. So we thought, might as well start, right? It doesn't hurt us to do it, and it gives us a picture of what's coming, because inevitably we would all be in it next year, this year anyway. So we went through, we did it. And again, Andrew and I, and even just some staff sat down, how are we gonna approach this, how are we gonna use it? So bottom line, as we went through and we built some incentives, which I'll talk about here in a second. So just last year's performance, just overall, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, that's what we're looking at, right? Those overall numbers. So 54% of NMS scored at or above in math, and then 55% in English language arts. Approaching proficiency is kind of our biggest leverage target group. That's the one that we're going to put a lot of. Again, we want to reach all kids, but to move the dial, we kind of have to dial in on a certain group. And so that approaching proficiency group is kind of where our target group is. So if you look at that, that means there's about 133 kids that are kind of, I'm not going to say on the bubble, but are in that category. So that's last year's picture, right? Again, well above the state performance, which I'm hoping, I mean, our community would normally do that, and I'm hoping that's not what we're setting our bar at. But at the end of the day, 60% now is like our goal. We want to hit 60% math, language arts. So moving on to kind of our action plan. So things that we've started to really kind of do. So we've spent the last couple PD days trying to do some cross-curricular, just common sense stuff, right? And just overlap with either terminology, vocabulary, and I put in here like i.e., math measurement standards with family consumer science, their baking and cooking unit, right? There's some easy ways that you can make some connections that, again, at the end of the day, we're saying the same thing, just to reinforce some of the things that we're trying to address and talk through. So PD has just been trying to develop some cross-curricular talk, whether it be some planning, some unit development, that kind of thing. So data-driven remediation plans using the iLearn checkpoint data and IXL diagnostic tool. So between English language arts and math, we have those two main tools, right? The checkpoints now are giving us, okay, here's where these kids are currently. And then we also use IXL, which is just an online program for math and language arts. They have a diagnostic tool that you can do at the beginning of the year that just gives you, okay, here's where your kids are at. So again, all that to say, teachers use that to develop kind of like just a program for their kids throughout the year. Then they use that with guided learning. So that's kind of that's where we've created these kind of targeted groups that we're gonna really hit with these remediation programs that have been developed through the IXL and the checkpoints. And again, those are small groups. That's again, in the education world, that's like our tier 2 group, right? That's our next level group that we're gonna focus on. Small groups, 10 to 15 kids that we really hit. They have an individual plan. And then if you can see down below, like every checkpoint that these kids go through, and we did this even when we did NWEA, we do this data record sheet that every kid does on their own. And so every year they keep it, they use it, they fill it out. And then these teachers in guided learnings will have small group meetings and they'll talk through their progress. They'll look at their kind of their IXL, their diagnostic like plan, their program, where they're at currently, just to get them ready and keep those conversations going, obviously for the summative test at the end. Weekly proactive one-on-one check-ins with just again, I think we talked about it, the academically and sometimes the behaviorally struggling kids. Again, those guided learning groups are really important from that standpoint. I mentioned the monitoring sheet, done at all grade levels. That's one thing that we actually started this year, is that across the board we created a uniform sheet, just that it's commonplace throughout every grade, 6, 7, 8. And then we do monthly data review meetings at the department. So obviously they'll get together and they'll look at vertically the scope and sequence, the alignment. Are we meeting all the standards as we get through these checkpoints? And then the one that I probably enjoy the most and the one that I get most excited for is the incentives that we put in for these kids. And I would say this is the one that Andrew and I mean, again, if you would just see how we work, probably disturbing sometimes, but, so we just sat down and we just started, again, just shooting ideas out. Like, again, if I'm a kid, like, again, a lot of these kids are intrinsically motivated, right? We all are to a degree, right? We all want to do well for, well's sake and, personal improvement. But some kids aren't, right? Some kids, I learned testing and assessments, right? They don't mean really that much to them. So we try to create something that's a little more engaging, and again, I'm gonna just use the word fun. In middle school, I think fun has to be used to reach some of these kids. So we just sat down and we created this massive, and we created a poster incentive program, from pizza parties to a dunk tank if they reached a certain level. And in April, when it was 50 degrees and raining, Jamie, Andrew, and I, we sat down and we had to get dunked over and over again all day for these kids. And again, it's one of those things that I think I think that's the one that I'd probably say the kids talk about the most, right? I mean, we can do all the things internally that we want to create. Hopefully that we do the right things, we put the people in the right spot, creating the right programming, the right systems. But at the end of the day, it's motivating the kids to want to do better, right? And however we can do that, I've been told a long time ago, right? Whatever we can do, right? Whatever it takes, and we'll do that outside of breaking the law or being unethical. We're gonna do that. So outside of that, we have our current checkpoint results that came in. So right now, and again, the left side is us, the middle bar is the state, and then obviously that far right bar is the goal, which I should have explained earlier on the first one, so I apologize for that. So currently right now, 45% of M&MS students at or above an ELA, and then 47 in math. Checkpoint 2 was actually supposed to be today, but that's not gonna happen. If we can make it happen this week, depending on school, that will be, and then obviously we'll go from there. So any questions for me from the middle school level?
I know you've got, they're all challenging levels, but I think it's great to see the continued growth and continued improvement, and the fact that we continue to stay above the state average. We want to challenge them even more to get them way above the state
That's the
average.
goal, absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you
Appreciate
say
it.
about the checkpoint? So that's, obviously the checkpoint, it looks to be lower than what they're really probably gonna end up. Would you agree?
Yeah, historically,
Right.
if you look at checkpoint 1 from last year, same thing. And from the math standpoint, which is the one I'm gonna speak to most, that's where your computation and number sense are really hit hard, and that's usually the lowest performing across the board. That's a checkpoint 1, so I'm gonna probably say that's a big result of that. ELA, again, first time testing, there could be just some little things that probably create that, but yeah, historically, the checkpoint 1, at least from last year comparative wise, has also been a lower.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily.
it's not
perfectly
indicative of what
aligned.
they're gonna do at the end, yep.
But it gives you some.
It gives you an idea,
Yep.
yep.
Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you.
All right, high school.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to thank and kudos to our K-8 team. I get to come up and I'm super excited about the data that I'm going to present, but without K-12 or pre-K-12 programming and everything that goes in before we get the students at the high school, like, our results aren't going to be the results that we have. So shout out and thank you guys for the hard work, your team, your staffs, because they are knocking it out of the park. By the time we get them in high school, our goal is obviously to get them across the finish line, and it takes a lot. We always say it takes a village to get our students there. You get 15-year-old freshmen that have no idea what they want to do with their life, all the way to 18-year-olds that think, I'm 18 years old, I'm an adult, I want to move out of my house, and we're not quite sure where they're even going to end up by the end of their senior year. So we kind of run that, getting them from the middle school ages through the young adulthood, but we want to make sure that we cross the finish line. So to start off with graduation rate, the data goal for our 2026 cohort is a 99% graduation rate, and you can see that in 23, 24, 25, so just the last 3 cohorts there, we were right there, 98.5% all the way up to 98.85. I know we've talked about it in other board meetings before. Last year, for the first time, we had a 100% diploma rate. every Norwell High School student that walked through the doors last year as a senior received a diploma. The hard part with that number is, and I've talked with our legislators about this, is there's a 1% cap on our students that have significant cognitive needs, and they earn an alternate diploma. So we had multiple students last year that they couldn't help it. We got them a diploma, but the state says we're only going to cap that at 1%. So we got one student to count, two students didn't count towards our diploma rate. Which is frustrating on our part because that student population works just as hard as our general education population to get across the finish line. The goal for this year at 99%, we're on pace for a 99.46. And again, you know, I'm proud to say that our federal and our state non-capped rate, we're on pace for 100% diploma rate, again, for the second straight year. So our team is working really, really hard at that No Child Left Behind, that we are gonna push students, pull students, do whatever it takes to get all of our students across the finish line at the end of the day. If you look back kind of at the last couple years, in 2025, again, we were capped at 1%. You look back to the 2024, you know, we had a student that came to us for 3 days as a senior and ran away. That student unfortunately counted against our graduation rate. They never were picked up by another school. We located them down in Muncie. We drove down, we gave an iPad to them to try to get them to finish online. I mean, we did everything we could to get that one student across the finish line, just couldn't quite do it. And that's kind of when I talk about the 18-year-old mentality. It's like, oh, I'm in the house and I'm here, and then I come into school for 3 days and then I'm gone. And unfortunately, now they're living in Muncie on their own, and we can't get them back into our school corporation. So we're trying to do the best that we can for all of our students, and I think the data there shows. If you look at the graph on the right-hand side, that goes all the way back, I know it's hard to see, to 2006. And so in the last 3 years, you'll see that our graduation rate tops every other year in the last 20 years. So we're super excited about the direction, and then again, going into this cohort of 2026 being right there, just above last year's cohort. One goal that we set as a staff is an SAT goal. SAT, I have a feeling, is going to be somewhere in the new accountability model, and so I wanted our staff to really wrap their minds around, you know, this is our one standardized test. You know, we talked about NWEA at the elementary level, you talked about the iLearn, the iRead at the elementary level. At the high school level, we've got the SAT. The SAT can be a challenge because we've got students that are obviously going to go to university after they graduate, and we have students that already know that, hey, I've got my welding certificate, I've got a full-time job in the welding world, what do I need to take the SAT for? And so, you know, our goal is to try to make sure that we motivate those students as well to really show off what they have learned in their 3 years of high school, because they would be taking it their spring of their junior year. So during our data team meetings, we had one just this past Wednesday in our 2-hour delay meeting. Kind of what our staff at the high school is working on is we're looking at increasing the benchmark of our students hitting both the math, which is 530 points, and the English of 480 points, and moving that needle from 34 to 40%. That 34% is about 10 percentage points above the state average, and what we're really focusing in on is our math skills. Implementing daily math reviews in all of our math classes that are focusing on algebraic concepts. What we're finding out is, one, we've got students that are in algebra as freshmen, and then they don't take the SAT until juniors, but we also have juniors that haven't taken algebra since their 8th grade year. And so you've got several years that once you don't use it, you lose it. We've all been there. Like if I go back and I look at my algebra skills, they're not near what they were, you know, my freshman year when I took them in high school. So just kind of that redirect, go back to algebra, back to algebra, back to algebra. We started that last year and we saw a 10 percentage point growth in just the algebra concepts of the SAT. So we're starting to see that really focused in level in our math classes, and that daily math review is already starting to pay off. As teachers, we're tracking data throughout the year to identify gaps and where we need to reteach. And so I kind of challenged our staff, especially our math department, to say, you know, as we're going through the process, what areas in math and what areas in English specifically are we seeing maybe some gaps? And then that way we can cycle back and we can reteach the material, reintroduce that material to make sure that the students are as prepared as possible for the SAT. Meeting quarterly with the math department, looking at our school-wide data. We have a school-wide focus on our PSAT and SAT data sets. So each fall, our freshman students take the PSAT 8-9, our sophomore students take the PSAT, and then our juniors that want to can also take the PSAT. And so test familiarity is the biggest piece with that. So then kind of the last point there is in our math classes especially, and also in our English classes, we're going to utilize the College Board practice SAT exams during class time. At the end of those exams, not only do they get a score, but our teachers also get kind of a generalized layout of what do our students need to be successful the next time they take the test. And then finally, I just always want to brag a little bit of kind of what happened in 2025 since I've got your attention. So if you can just stick with me for just a couple minutes here. Just want to shout out to Norwell High School. We were named the best school by U.S. News for the second straight year. Last year, we were one of 241 high schools to complete a 60% FAFSA completion rate, which that's shout out to our guidance team because they're the ones who are really focusing in on reaching out to parents. We have 2 FAFSA nights. We have one in the fall. We have one in the spring to try to get as many parents to complete that FAFSA as possible. Just last week, we were recognized by the College Board as an AP Honor Roll bronze level for the very first time. 83% of our students scored a 3+ on AP exams. And what that means is those students have the opportunity to take that high school course, that's an AP course, and then can transfer that to college level credit. We raised our SAT score by 5 points last year to an average score of 985. State average is 937. And last year we had 8 Indiana College Core graduates, which is up from 1 in 2024. And when I just checked with my guidance team a couple weeks ago, we're close to 30 ICC graduates this year in the cohort of 2026. So we're super excited about that. Not to leave some of our CTE programming out, this past December and January, Mr. Morris's ASE automotive classes earned 20 ASE certifications, and then Mr. Grish's CNA class that just took their CNA licensing exams this past January, 22 students earned their CNA license in his class. And then last but not least, kind of the one that I really like to talk about because this has really been our focus for the last several years is our dual credit courses that we offer at Norwell. Last year alone, Norwell High School students took and passed 1,503 college courses in the 24-25 school year. So just over 4,500 college credits were earned by our students last year, which we are super proud of, saving our families tons and tons of money and saving our students a ton of time at the college level. Most of them that are taking these classes actually will have their freshman year completed by the time they graduate high school.
5 years ago, 5 classes, and
We had, I think there are 10 total classes. We're at 55 now, working with Mr. Nuance-Wonder in his criminal justice class. I'm looking at partnering with Vincennes University, and we'll have 3 more for next year, so a total of 58 dual credit courses that we'll offer next year for sure.
Wonderful.
Yep.
thank you. Nice job.
All right, moving on to action items, previous, or the minutes from the board meeting 2 weeks ago.
I'll make a motion to approve, so sorry, I was in a daze. I will second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions, any comments? All those approved, right hand. All right, moving on to personnel report.
All right, FMLAs, we have Lisa Waybright, teacher at the middle school, and Alyssa Borney, a teaching assistant at Lancaster. Resignations, Emma Geyer, social studies teacher at the high school, Audrey Frank, kindergarten teacher at Ossian, and Susie Cyrus, assistant unified track coach at the high school. Recommendations, Erica Scott, co-math bowl sponsor at Ossian, John Cox, co-math bowl sponsor at Ossian, Sarah Campbell as a short-term teaching assistant at Lancaster, Charles Strunk, assistant wrestling coach at the middle school, Emerson Meredith, substitute teacher for the corporation, and Cody Haney, a volunteer track coach for the high school. And then position changes, Madison Brenneman is gonna move from food service to being a bus aide, and Abby Rodenbeck is gonna go from a full-time to a part-time SLP.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion. Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, right hand. All right, the offboarding report.
Yeah, I'll get this over for you, sorry. I almost didn't do the personnel reports, I knew he was gonna do this to me. Give me a second.
So I just kind of wanted to give you guys some backstory as we're going through this. So I kind of went through a bunch of spreadsheets and got like true accurate numbers for how many employees Norwell actually employs for the district. So the total is 317. This is going to exclude any seasonal coaches, temporary positions, or substitute positions. So this is our everyday, from bus drivers to food service to teachers, administrators, coordinators, things like that. Breakdown, so administrators, directors, coordinators, we have 24. Certified staff, which include our teachers, our guidance counselors, SLPs, and special education support, we have 158. Building support, secretaries, nurses, teaching assistants, any other special sped support is 71. And then operationals is our buildings and ground, food service, and transportation. We have 64 employees, so. I wanted to do a data correction from the presentation that I gave at the end of last year, just because it was skewed, because I think if you guys remember, I included the substitutes and the seasonal coaches, and I took off the positions that we absorbed into other departments. So looking at that, the number of employees that actually exited was 53. We conducted 36 exit interviews, 21 were certified, and 32 were classified. So that's kind of a more accurate number for the total year. So this is just the first semester data. So this is anything from July 1st, 2025 through December 31st of 2025. We did have 21 employees that exited. We were able to do 9 exit interviews. 7 of the employees were certified staff, 14 were considered classified staff. The breakdown of who completed exit interviews, who didn't. So we had 3 certified staff, and again, I put, who those represent. Complete an exit interview, 4 did not. 3 building support did, 2 did not. 3 operational, and 6 operational who did not complete. And then I kind of looked at the data based off of what we had last year. So there's the numbers for the 24-25 school year, and again, that's the total year for last year. So reasons for leaving, out of the 21 employees, a lot of it I found, within their resignation letter, other than just sitting down with the 9 and them actually telling us why they left. 8 left due to, their family or a health problem. 4 left to job education. We had 1 retirement. 3 unresolved differences. 1 employee actually never even started. They were board approved, and then we had to put them that they resigned before they even started. And then we had 4 that were policy violations. So some of the comments, I found a position within my degree. That was a building support person. I have a lot going on personally with my family and need to be home. That was an operational person. Leaving for an opportunity closer to home within the same school system as my children, certified. Length of employment, we had 2 that worked for Norwell less than a year, 2 1 to 3 years, 2 3 to 5 years, 2 10 or more years, and then 1 15 plus. How they rated us on compensation and benefits, 2 rated us at a level 3, 4 at a level 4, and 3 at a level 5. Some of the comments that they made regarding our benefits and compensation. Support staff concerns about the compensation benefit, length of time to receive a raise, and the number of PTO days. It came from a building support person. Leaving for better pay with a similar position, an operational. Cost of health insurance is expensive. That was a certified. And then I just want to point out that 7 out of the 9 people that we did exit interviews rated us of having compensation benefits at a 4 or 5, which I'm pretty satisfied with. Working environment within the building. We had 1 rate us at a level 2, 2 at a level 4, and then 6 at a level 5. Some of the comments, everyone was good to work with and operational. All the building level special education teachers and general education teachers are amazing at Norwell. Building support. Building administrators were great and supportive during my time, certified. 1 employee did not feel supported at the building level. I've loved my time in my building and those I worked with. Certified building administrators were awesome and easy to get along with. Certified working environment within the grade level department, 2 at level 2, 2 at level 3, 2 at level 4, and 3 at level 5. It was a lot being by myself and having to help both staff and students. That was a building support. Communication was sometimes inconsistent within my department, building support. Too much pressure for student achievement test scores and data, was a certified employee. Everyone within my department was kind and supportive, building support. Consistent feedback, 6 said yes, they received consistent feedback, 3 said they did not. Overall, employees expressed that they received consistent feedback from their direct supervisor. Sorry, that's a typo. I had 3 employees that rated no for consistent feedback were employees that were in their position less than a year. So 2 out of the 3 hadn't worked for Norwell for over a year, so maybe they didn't even get to the point where they were sitting down for a review or getting that feedback. 1 expressed that their supervisor was available and they learned together. That was a certified. If they would work for Norwell again, 6 said yes, 1 said no. That was our retiree. He said, I'm retired and I'm not gonna be working anywhere. And 2 said maybe. Yes, I would work for Norwell again. It was a nice place to work, was an operational staff. Recommend a friend to work for Norwell. 6 said yes, 2 said no, 1 said maybe. 2 out of the 6 I want to recommend said that they would absolutely recommend a friend to work for Norwell Community Schools. So something that we've done the last couple of years is we've sent out a new teacher survey. This is something that I've talked to Mr. Springer about, is kind of getting, those kind of stay interviews from employees. So we had 23 new teachers start for the 25-26 school year. I only had 9 that responded to the survey. So the onboarding experience, we had 4 say rated 3, 4 at 4, and 1 at 5. So really kind of need to do some digging in. Was it the onboarding when we bring them on as a new employee? Was it the onboarding at the building level? There wasn't a follow-up question for that, so I kind of want to dig into that to see if it's something that maybe I need to be doing more from a district level or working with building administrators once we hand them over. Why Norwell? They got to kind of pick multiple things, I should say. Compensation and benefits, 5 selected that. Norwell's vision and direction, 3. My children go to Norwell, 3, and I live within the Norwell District, 2. Level of satisfaction, we have 1 out of 3, 6 at 4, and 2 at 5. Some of the comments that these new educators provided was Norwell values the opinions of their staff and treats them like professionals. They are, but even more than that, my admin team has made me feel cared for and as a person. Someone is always checking in and seeing if I need anything. That kind of personal connection means a lot. I also appreciate that Norwell has a shared vision for the future and is continually striving for excellence. The content of our Plan PD is aligned with the goals in mind. Everything feels cohesive. Here at Norwell, 90% of my day is focused on the student learning and 3% on everything else. At my previous job, it was 60% student learning, 30% discipline classroom management, and 10% building infrastructure issues. And then more support from administrators in the school directly, a little more organized, and more opportunity and resources for students.
Any questions? If there are none, we'll take a motion for the personnel report.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Those in favor, right hand. All right. Moving on to donations.
Excuse me. Clean Fuels, $976.20 donation to Norwell Food and Nutrition. Randy Salfrank, $500 to the middle school archery program that the board just approved last board meeting. That's it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor, right hand. Out-of-state trips.
All right, Lancaster fifth grade out-of-state trip to Neil Armstrong Museum in Wapakoneta, Ohio.
I'll
second. Any questions? Those in favor, right hand. Moving on to teacher appreciation grants or recipients.
Yeah, and so just real quick before you read the names, just again, appreciate the process through this. It's a hand that we were dealt, it's not the hand that we would have dealt ourselves. But just through collaboration with our teachers that came together and decided how we were gonna do this application process, and our administrative team and everybody, and then appreciate the board going through and looking at the applications. And I know that wasn't an easy task either, but appreciate it. I think we made a difficult process that we were given as good as we could do it, so appreciate it.
I probably should have asked you to have these numbers ahead of time, but can you tell me how many qualified, how many applied? And
So-
how many we have to award, or get to award?
Yeah, so Norwell was given $84,000 to put towards this. We decided as a committee, because you had ranges of $3,500, $5,000, and $7,500. And so that we could spread it and give to more people, excuse me, we decided to do the $3,500 level, which every level had to do with improving student achievement and making significant impact on student growth and outcomes. And so $84,000 came out to 24 applicants that could be awarded. That's 24 individual teachers. So we could, at Norwell, teachers could apply as a team, like a grade level or department, or they could apply individually. So they had that flexibility per the process that we put together. And so we had 24 applications. And then that number, you have the total number, I guess I could look here, 68 teachers that applied either as a team or individually.
Out of that
Out
call,
of-
because I know they had to be at certain levels, so they had to meet or exceed expectations, correct?
Well, you just had to show progress. They actually didn't have that as part of it.
Oh, they
But,
didn't? Okay.
but the criteria you did have to have, yeah, you needed to be here last year. So
Yes.
teachers that were new to us this year were not eligible. And then you had to also be here at the end of the year. So if you resigned, if you're resigning, because we have one person's resigning because they're moving away. They applied, but they weren't eligible because they won't be here at the time that these stipends are given in April, so. Okay, did I answer all that you were asking?
Yep, I think so. Any other questions before we make an official decision? I just want to say, I want to thank all of the teachers for not only their hard work, but for taking the time to apply. I know that, on top of everything they're having to do in the classroom, and now there's another step just to get a little bit of extra money, which $3,500 is a pretty substantial amount. I'll tell you, it was probably the hardest thing we've had to do as a board, is take, what'd you say, 68 individuals down to 24. Because frankly, all 68 of them are very well deserving, and I would honestly say that every one of our teachers is deserving. And I don't like what we have to do with the state, but I understand it, but it doesn't mean we like it. So any other comments, or if none, I'll take a motion.
I would like to make a motion to award the TAG grant to the following: Jonathan Kraft, Jacob Bowman, Patty Atkins, Cale Grish, Herb Bergman, Nicole Burt, Angie Duncan, Rachel Eckert, Hannah Hewson, Monica Huffman, Andrea Johnson, Jeff Smith, Krista Alec, Anna Hoffman, Rachel McBride, Kristen Prater, Jenny Sander, Bria Eversole, Lindsay Burke, Sarah Gerard, Lisa Waybright, Mackenzie Denny, Sammy Rumfelt, and Angie Smith.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
And I'll second.
Okay. Yes, you made the motion. Motion is second. Is there any other member of the public that wishes to speak in regards to this? All right, moving on. Those in favor, right hand. Again, thanks, everybody. Stepping Stones Group LLC agreement.
All right, Vindy, you want to come up on that one just real quick, just to give them a heads up on it?
Stepping Stones Group is just the contract
That I was speaking of earlier. for the school psychologist that would be here 3 days a week and then remote the 2 days a week, so just.
And this is the contract that then will allow the other person to give her 30 days?
Yes,
notice?
correct, yes. That with having Randy coming in with the in person, then what we'll have is with Lorraine and then Randy will have someone here 5 days a week, and then they work remotely a total of 3 days a week, so.
And I think that was always the goal when we needed to switch over to the virtual only, was to find in-person.
It was a Band-Aid until we
Yes.
could find this, yes, correct.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion for approval.
I will second.
I have a second. Any questions? Any members of the public? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, right hand. All right.
Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to limited public comments. Just want to make sure to understand the distinction. There is obviously a public forum after the fact. After we adjourn, the board will not be involved in that because we will be adjourned. It's not a public meeting at that point. So if there's anybody who wants to address the board directly, you're welcome to step up to the podium and have a few minutes to say what you need to say. All right, hearing none,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
a motion for adjournment. Thanks, and I hope everybody's able to stay, and